morning, everyone. My name is Mick Hesse, and of course this is Roving with the Arts. And today we've actually roved out of the studio and come down to Mauricio Espinal's office study studio. And he's going to start playing a little bit of music in the background here, but this is the segment on my program I call Making Money Making Music. And that's exactly what these guys do. Delbert Anderson is here as well. Two good friends of mine and two good friends of each other, and it's a really, really nice situation to be involved with these guys. And I'm going to ask them a few questions about how in the world can they make money making music. Because to me that's important. I've done it all my life. Haven't made a lot of money, but I've made a lot of music, you know. So
Me too.
Let me introduce first Delbert. Many of you know Delbert from, he's all over town. But I'm going to let him introduce himself. This is Delbert Anderson. Who are you, Delbert?
Delbert Anderson, played trumpet from a very early age, 4th grade, and stuck with it all the way through, my school years, and ended up getting a scholarship to Eastern New Mexico University, where I studied, trumpet and music education. I think it's in college where I got a lot more serious and started to really practice.
Practice. The P word. Yeah, the P word. Yeah.
And afterwards, I came back here to Farmington and started a group known as the Delbert Anderson Trio, and we did a lot of things. I think that was in 2015, and now we sort of have another sort of an altered group called DDAT, and that seems to be more of what I'm doing right now. But I also picked up music composition and private lessons, all kinds of different side jobs to music
in order to make money.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a tough field, and you got to really you got to go get them and be very inventive, and you can't be easily knocked down. You got to be pretty tough and know what you want to do and learn along the way, don't you think?
Exactly. I always for every great accomplishment that we encounter, there's about 2 or 3 fails before that.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that's a great idea that you got there. The idea of this program is to highlight local musicians who are in fact making a living as musicians. There are hundreds of people who practice music and have a great time, whether they play as volunteers or in bands or orchestras, choruses, all kinds of music. But it's a kind of a small group of people who actually can make a living doing that. Mm-hmm. And in Farmington, being a relatively small community, it's even more challenging. A little bit later, Delbert, I'm going to ask you about when you go out on tour, what that's like, what kind of life that is for you. Mm-hmm. Mauricio, would you play us a little background music while we're jamming here? Mauricio's an incredible keyboard player. I've had the great pleasure of getting to know him within the last couple of years, and he and Delbert were together before I got to know Mauricio. I'd known Delbert for quite a few years, and you gonna play along with him, Delbert?
Yeah,
what key are you in?
I'm an
F.
F.
Go, guys. Great. All right. And so that's just, you guys just walked into the studio here.
Yeah.
Mauricio started playing a few notes, and Delbert heard it in his head and said, yeah, I can do that. That's really cool. That's one thing I can't do in music and in trumpet playing. I sure wish I had started, like 40 years ago, and then I'd probably be able to do it. Mauricio, tell us a little bit about your background and what brings you or brought you to Farmington.
Yeah, well, thank you first of all for having me in your program. Well, I'm from Honduras, Central America. I started study music at the 8 or 10 years old, and I studied formal music in Honduras. In Honduras, the education in the level of college is still free. It's you don't have to pay for it. So I had the great opportunity to study music and at the college level in Honduras. So my strong side of music, I think, is piano. I study piano, and first I start with classical, and then I start to hear some contemporary and jazz, and I think myself, what's this kind of music? I love it because in Central America we have a lot of Caribbean rhythms, so jazz is not common in my country, but I start to hear some jazz, and I stick in it with it.
And here you are. How did you get to Farmington?
Well, I came Farmington because I orchestrated. I did full scores for a play. It calls "He is Alive" from the Ministries, Passion Play Ministries International, and they present this play in Honduras in a church, in one of the church in Honduras, and this friend of mine, this lady, invited me to direct the orchestra and write all the orchestrations and everything. So we did the presentation with live music for the first time in 30 years of this ministry. And the director of Passion Play Ministries, Stenberget, which is a resident of Farmington too, he was there, and he was watching.
Just
he was
by chance.
Yeah. And he heard the music, and he was so excited. He was so happy about this, and he invited me the next year to do the same thing in Farmington. And,
wow.
and I came invited for him, and I did the small ensemble, and a small orchestra. That was in 2012, and then a pastor from this Passion Play Ministries International, associated pastor, he invited me to be part of his staff at his church. And so that's the connection. That's why I'm here.
Wow.
Me and my family.
Wow. That reminds me, so many times in music, I've experienced that you audition, or you can audition, and it's being in the right place at the right time a lot of times, and you just got to be ready. You just got to be doing your thing,
That's right.
and the world is full of people looking for good musicians.
And do it with excellence.
And doing it well. Exactly. Yeah. Being prepared.
Yeah.
And you never know. You just never know who's sitting out in the audience
Right.
somewhere, or just down the street or something. It's
That's right.
It's a
That's
crazy
right.
process,
That's right.
you know.
Well, for me, it was a huge change because, I was in my country, and 2 years later, I was living in Farmington. So,
And you have a family here, right?
yes.
Yeah. Wow. I'm really proud to know you guys who have worked really, really hard to get where you are today to
Thank you.
to actually, be able to survive as a musician. It's not an easy task.
Yeah.
We're going to switch now and listen to a great chart that Delbert has written and performed and recorded with his trio called DAT, Delbert Anderson Trio. Delbert's an exquisite trumpet player and composer, and he's melding music, indigenous music in a style, along with jazz that has become very successful for him. So let's listen to this tune that Delbert wrote.
Look back, cool, how's that? Wonder why the text works cool like that. Breathe, look back, cool, how's that? Wonder why the text works cool like that. Feeling like smoking that cool right up till it's down, then throw it to the ground. Oh, it is funny how the word look is cool backwards. Read, look back, cool, how's that? Wonder why the text works cool like that. Read, look back, cool, how's that? Wonder why the text works cool like that. Feeling like smoking that cool right up till it's down, then throw it to ground. Oh, it is funny how the word look is cool backwards.
We just heard an original piece called Look Backward by Delbert Anderson and performed by the Delbert Anderson trio, drums, bass, and trumpet. Let's get back to the interview now. We're talking with Delbert Anderson and Mauricio Espinal in a series I call Making Money, Making Music. So, Mauricio, I'll come back to you. How is the music life different in Honduras? And we'll save for another time the fact that you have to go back pretty soon, but and do you think you're going to be able to make a living in Honduras when you get back there?
Well, in my country, and it's sad to say it, but in my country, you cannot live with the music. Actually, you have to, music is, something for people who loves music and study music like me. In Honduras, you cannot live just with the music. You have to have another job or something. Because my country, it's a third world country. And arts are very difficult. Music, paint, any kind of arts, it's very difficult. So because people, it's concentrated in other things, not in music. There's more important for them get a job or bring food to the table,
yeah,
and not music.
Yeah.
So music for people in my country is just like escape once a week or once a month. So I'm gonna pay for a concert just one every 3 months, or I'm gonna pay for a CD once a year, because it's not in my budget. So
Yeah. Quite a different life.
different.
So do you think when you go back now, you're going to have to go back, that you're going to be able to continue making music?
Well, I'm gonna knock doors in my country because my chances right now or my opportunities right now is to work for a church. The church are institutions more, steady. They can pay you a salary if the church is enough big for pay you a salary. If not, I have to ask for, private music schools,
Right.
or something like that.
Right.
Or some gigs, in hotels or something like that.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So, Delbert, I want to come back to you and ask a little bit about DAT, Delbert Anderson Trio, and we're going to play one of the cuts from that trio. That how do you say
Manitou, yeah. Manitou album.
Before we listen to that, though, would you tell the audience a little bit how it is to go out on tour with a trio or a quartet? I know you just came back from Alaska and you had some interesting happenings there. But how's life on the road, would you say?
It's I would say 80% of the time it's really fun, just because the gigs that we play are only 45 minutes to an hour and a half long. So really, when we're on tour, that whole other time, we're just kind of hanging out, and I kind of learned something being on the road is the more free time we have, we have to look out for that, because the more free time, that's when we begin to use more money. So having a lot of space while you're on tour is pretty difficult to deal with, because you're in a new place and you want to go check the town out and you want to buy things, and you can't always do that, especially if you really want to make it a career. So there has to be a lot of mature decisions in that. That's
a good way to put it. Mature decisions.
And but it's really fun. When I go, it's funny because my wife always calls it a vacation, and I have to keep reminding her, no, this is work.
Yeah,
this is work.
That we got that terrible thing that we play our instruments, and I think the vast majority of people think all we're doing all day is playing. They really don't understand, but that's who cares,
Yeah.
So what are we going to hear from your CD?
This is called MD, and I know it's spelled EMDEE, and I don't know why we did that, but we just did. We're horrible at making names for titles for music. This is, in the sense, a tribute to the late Miles Davis. He was more of an electronic player, in his late age, and was, messing around with electronics. So in this MD, you hear the trumpet with, harmonies, and I'm playing through a guitar effects pedal, and so it's a really neat take, with also a little bit of hint of my Native American music, I guess culture or cultural music, and so those two combined is pretty mind-blowing for a lot of people, because you never hear that mix before, and I think this captures that really well.
We'll come back and talk a little bit about that mixed heritage that you're dealing with when you're out on the road and here in town as well. But first, let's hear MD from Delbert Anderson Trio. That was not MD, that was Dat 1 by the Delbert Anderson Trio here on KSJE in Farmington, New Mexico. This program's a little unusual from the usual classical music that I present, but this fits in with the theme that I have going called Making Money Making Music. And today we're listening to Delbert Anderson, great jazz trumpet player, involved all over town with various jazz presentations, and Mauricio Espinal, who is a wonderful keyboard player, comes to us from Honduras, to which place he must soon return. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. 5 years ago, Mauricio and his family moved to Farmington from Honduras, where he was a working musician there. And due to the visa rules and regulations, he's being forced to return to Honduras on June 3rd. Hopefully, he can reapply. 5 years ago, Mauricio and his family moved to Farmington from Houston. We're appointed a working musician there, and due to he's being forced to return to Honduras. I've down 3rd. Hopefully, he can to come back to the country and his great work here. And lots of good players will be there. Delbert Anderson, Funkadelic from the college. Sheldon Pickering will be there, and several other great musicians here in the Farmington area. So if you'd like to come down and hear Mauricio live, come to the Farmington Museum at 5 o'clock on Thursday, May 16th. Let's get back to the interview. Welcome back, everyone. We just heard the Delbert Anderson Trio playing MD, an original composition that Delbert came up with. We'll talk a little bit with him about his background as Navajo and how that affects, if it does at all, maybe it doesn't, the transitions that he makes musically between different audiences. But we'll go back to Mauricio. And you come from Honduras. Have you been to other countries in addition to America?
Not living, but I visit all Central America.
Okay.
Central America, like Guatemala, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and Panama. And I had the opportunity to go to, we went with Passion Play Ministries to South Africa.
Oh, wow, to South Africa.
Yes, that was amazing.
So those other in Central American countries, have you been working as a musician in those as well?
Yes.
So my question is, are conditions different in different countries and different cities to the point where you have to make some kind of adjustment with your own brain and your music making?
Yeah, I think the different, if we have to say a difference, should be technology. I mean, because let me say this: we in Central America, we have amazing musicians, and they can play everything, classical, jazz, you name it, everything, and they very good. But we have this lack of resources, a piano, a guitar, a trumpet. Because we don't have it there.
A lack of resources.
Yeah, lack of resources. Yeah. We don't have a music store just in the corner, and we can get some guitar strings. Right now, I'm coming back to Honduras. I have a lot of friends asking me for string guitars. Can you imagine that? Yeah, because it's very complicated. Yeah. Get all these things in my country, but. I remember when I studied music in Honduras, it's a very old, very, very old building, and when I studied music, and we had these grand pianos, very old, out of tune, yeah. But we learned in that kind of instrument. So I think that would be the big difference for me.
Right. Interesting. And you don't know that until you actually live through it. You can talk about it, with friends and stuff, but until you actually are in the situation to really feel it on your body.
And it's not just it's not that that we don't have these things. I mean, we have music stores, we have malls, we have everything there, but I mean, the difference is we don't have the access for all these things, personal incomes to get these things, you know.
Right.
And I think United States, it's a very blessed country because you can get everything, anywhere, anytime. Yeah.
Well, I have one more question for Delbert before we have them play us out of this little program today. What advice do you have, if any, to other people, not necessarily younger, but probably younger people as they're working their way through music?
Well, I think the biggest one is, always you have to be honest to yourself of what what your abilities are, what you can accomplish. But I would say, it's 50%. Talent and what you practice, what you do, that's 50% of it. And the other half is knowing how to sell yourself. So there's a huge, I learned so much in the whole, business aspect of music on how to promote yourself, how to set up meetings or talk to, art directors, executives, that kind of thing. And there's just so much music business that you have to learn, and in order to be a sustaining musician out there making money. It's so hard. It really is. And one thing about music programs today is they push you to the instrument. They show you how to practice, and they show a lot of different skill sets that you can learn, but there's the other half, what's going to really push them and make them successful in music is the whole business side. And I think that's kind of it's sort of under the rug. You have to go figure that stuff out, and that's the I would say that's really been a lot of the success that we had as a band lately, and myself just brushing up on our business and our image and that kind of thing. It really helps. It's amazing how it works.
A lot of the conservatories and the better music schools actually have courses in the business side of music, which maybe should be one of the very first courses you take.
Exactly.
Because maybe you're not cut out to do that, because not everybody has an agent. Boy, that's at least in the beginning, you're your own agent. You're your own PR guy. And all you got to do all that stuff as well as practice and organize your rehearsals and stuff. We're going to end the show now with. I mentioned that. Let me ask Delbert one more question about living in the two worlds of the indigenous population here in New Mexico, especially, and you have a foot kind of in both worlds, don't you? Kind of. I would. I do. I use the whole Native American side, especially early Navajo music. I did some studying before I even composed anything, and I really that's what I use as my niche, and I think having that side really pushed myself and the band to a whole different level. If we didn't have that, we would just be a jazz combo, and it's very difficult to be successful if you're just some one of a million jazz combos. That's the kind of group I would be in. You have a big advantage there. So I definitely used took some of these melodies and rewrote them in a sense to where it's more appealing to people rather than just taking it out and because I think people would get scared if they actually heard the traditional melodies of these things, but I think mixing and combining the two, jazz, funk, and Native American melodies, have really taken notice by other people. Yeah, and you're a totally unique group. Yeah, and the mixing itself was
a whole science in itself. Like I said, if it was too much native, we would lose listeners. If it was too much jazz, we lose listeners. So finding that spot was a really, we're still trying to find
Of course.
that point, and will always be.
Yeah,
and
that's an evolving thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
As tastes
But
change.
it's definitely different on both sides.
Well, this has been a great thing for me to do and meet you guys on your turf this way. It's really kind of cool. I'm going to for sure have you come back, and we'll go into some more detail on this stuff. And Mauricio, when you come back from Honduras next year, we'll be the first ones to invite you back and
Awesome.
and welcome you back home, man.
I would be so happy. Thank you.
What I would like you guys to do now is play a little jam session on your Farewell Morgan song, and then we'll end the show with their recording. Delbert Anderson, Mauricio Espinal. Farewell Morgan by Delbert Anderson and Mauricio Espinal. We're going to close out the show with their actual recording of this piece, and it's a beauty. Did you guys write it? You must have. Delbert, this is yours, huh?
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's
Mauricio added the chords.
Okay, thanks for joining me, guys. It's been a pleasure. We'll finish out this segment of Roving with the Arts here on KSJE in Farmington, New Mexico, with a recording that Mauricio and Delbert made of Farewell Morgan. And if you come to the concert, the free concert, Thursday evening this week on the 16th at the Farmington Museum, you'll get a chance to hear this performed live by Delbert and Mauricio. Farewell Morgan. Well, I hope you've enjoyed talk and interview with Delbert Anderson and Mauricio Espinal. Well, I enjoyed talk and interview with Delbert Anderson. You do that in a while, finding local musicians who are making a living, making money, making music. You're listening to KSJE here in Farmington, New Mexico. We're going to end the hour with some early music, and I might mention that you can tune in tonight at 7 o'clock for Early Music Now and the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center. We're going to hear a wonderful vocal ensemble, 4 women called Anonymous 4, who specialize in music from the Renaissance. And we're going to hear 3 cuts from their CD titled Portrait. This is From the Lily and the Lamb. Thanks for joining me today, folks, on Roving with the Arts here in Farmington, New Mexico. My name is Mick Hesse, and we've been listening to music by Anonymous 4, a four-part female ensemble who specialize in music of the Renaissance. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you can tune in again tomorrow.